All right, so hello Dinos. Welcome to the final Good and Evil video blog that I'll be doing. I'm doing it on Bartholomew de las Casas and his writings, The Devastation of the Indies. So this is looking, so Bartholomew was a explorer who came to the West Indies during the early years of colonization, and he wrote back to the King and Queen of Spain repeatedly and argued on behalf of the Indians who lived in the West Indies because of the unimaginable cruelty that he saw there. And I think that this is an excellent example of, well, it doesn't really touch on it as much in his writing, but a lot of what he touches on in the larger scope of things is this idea of the ends justify the means. And I think that this is something that has very much been called into question in modernity, in the idea of conflicting morality. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to talk to you about in this one. So let's get started on that. So what de las Casas is talking about is the annihilation and devastation faced by the native peoples when the Spaniards first arrived. The incredible atrocities that he witnessed during that time. And it's the evil that he sees is that, what we see so often in things that go on is that, this idea of weighing of interests and, who is this really in the benefit of, and that's what I really think that he's talking about here. And it's a great question because it's been a question that has really gripped the world ever since. So de las Casas writes, "The common ways mainly employed by the Spaniards who call themselves Christians and who have gone there to expatriate those pitiful nations and wipe them off the earth is unjustly waging cruel and bloody wars. Then, when they have slain all those who fought for their lives or to escape the tortures they would have to endure, that is to say, when they have slain all the native rulers and young men, since the Spaniards usually spare only women and children who are subjected to the harshest and bitterest servitude ever suffered by man or beast, they enslave any survivors. With these infernal methods of tyranny, they debase and weaken countless numbers of those pitiful Indian nations." How many times have we heard this story since? It's been this constant thing in modernity, and it honestly makes me think a lot of this psychology notion called cognitive dissonance, and it's where you have two conflicting moral beliefs, and one of them will win. And I think that that's what's true for, the things that allow, in cognitive dissonance, somebody who enters that phase of conflicting moral beliefs, they can choose a path that allows them to keep going forward, allows them to justify their actions. We see this over and over again, as I mentioned, in modernity. We see it in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. The ends justify the means, and the incredible torture suffered by the Dutch in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Not so democratic back then. And then again, in a parody of that, we see it in Apocalypse Now. The ends justifies the means in the Vietnam War and the atrocities that were witnessed upon the native population, the Vietnamese, then. I think one of the reasons, Dinos, that we're discussing this under Good and Evil is because it's meant to bring into that question. When does that stop? When does the ends justifying the means stop? When do oil spills wrecking local populations in the name of the greater oil economy start to matter? When do these things start to matter? When does the movement of jobs from North America overseas to where they can do cheap labor but can basically have indentured workers working for less than nothing, or a little bit more than nothing? That was silly. Less than nothing doesn't make sense. When does that stop? When do we stop saying the ends justify the means? Global economy. When does that stop mattering? And when we look at how many people it's hurt from de las Casas on, we've had the question, and the good and the evil here, when does the end stop justifying the means? And where do we draw that line? I think in many ways that's what the core of this reading is so much about. And in many senses, I think that is a question that we have to start asking ourselves in this world that we live in that is rapidly becoming more and more populated of, when does a waste start to matter? When does the waste of human life, of resources, of the environment, of energy, and when I say energy, I mean, human energy. When do we stop throwing away, 40 years of our lives working for things that we don't care about? When does that waste stop? And I think in many ways that's what the good and evil that this text really embodies, is that it brings to light that question in modernity of, what is good and evil? And when do we stop wasting? So when do we start slowing things down and considering what we're doing and the effects it will have? So yeah, that's all I have for you today, Dinos. Merry Christmas! Happy end of semester, and I hope your exam goes well.